Hi, welcome back. My name is Sheldon MacLeod, and this is Thinking Out Loud, presented to you exclusively here by the SaltWire Network. And I've spoken with politicians. I've spoken with people who've had, dramatic things happen in their lives. And I was really pleased when I had an opportunity to connect with this singer-songwriter. In fact, Steve Poltz, for those of you who don't know, and I want to get this right because they just sent out a news release about this, a true musical iconoclast. Steve Poltz has done it all. Born and based again in Halifax. He's co-written an iconic multi-platinum single. He's signed to a major label. He's created a career as a songwriter, a humorist, and a collaborator with a fervid following. His 14th studio album has just been released. It's called Stardust and Satellites. And I got to say, a few of my coworkers had stumbled across a song just the other day that has, a lot to do with pop. And it's just a fun song. And just for a second here, here's a little bit of it.
Honey, let me open up a can of pop. I'm rusty like an old horseshoe. I've been working on an engine in an old chop shop. I wanna feel the fizzy rhythm with you.
Feel the fizzy rhythm. I don't want to interrupt it, but the guy behind that song is here with me right now, and Steve Poltz is in Nashville. Good day, and welcome to Nova Scotia, I guess, figuratively.
Thank you. I really wish I were in Nova Scotia right now. That'd be great.
You've been a very popular act at the Carlton, obviously, over the years. And I'm wondering, how does someone go from, because it says Halifax, born in Halifax, raised in San Diego. How do you go bi-coastal and bi-national?
Well, my dad was in the RCAF, and he was stationed out at Greenwood. And so he met my mom in Montreal. She's from Cape Breton, but she was teaching in Montreal. And he fell in love. And then I was born in Halifax in the infirmary to the Sisters of Charity. And then one morning, my dad woke up when I was just a young kid, and there was too much snow. And he said, we're moving somewhere warm. And he looked at a map, and he saw Pasadena, California. So we moved and immigrated and moved to Los Angeles, California. And then we moved to Palm Springs, to the desert, where it was really warm. And then I moved to San Diego and went to university and stayed there for like 30 years. And now I find myself in Nashville.
I want to ask, because you are very proud of the song that you co-wrote with Jewel. And that song became, in a lot of ways, part of your live act. You'll tell the story as you sing the song. And I'm wondering, what did that do for a young musician, getting that kind of success? How did that affect you?
Well, the song you're referring to is called You Were Meant for Me, and it was a big hit for Jewel back in the 90s. And we wrote that together down in Mexico and ended up on a marijuana drug bust with a bunch of Mexican federales. We were ostensibly going out to go whale watching. And then this song, we wrote it when we came back. And the pictures are on the internet. If you type in Jewel drug bust photos, you'll see a picture of me with Jewel, and we got guns and holding beers and all this marijuana shoved into a black Suburban behind us. And so what it did to change me was it sort of was like an endowment from the arts, and allowed me to go out and just keep touring, and helped finance my addiction to songwriting and performing. And so I was pretty lucky to have that hit song, and that hit song pays the bills for all the other songs I write.
We're in a different place in a lot of ways now, as you probably know better than I, that with songwriting and publishing and the way people are distributing their music. How does one come to find themselves writing and recording a 14th album in the midst of a pandemic?
Well, there's a band here in Nashville, and they're called the Wood Brothers, and it's Chris Wood, Oliver Wood, and John O'Ricks. And Chris Wood was in a band called Medeski, Martin, and Wood as well. And so they were my neighbors, and I just was walking every day during the pandemic and doing what everybody else was doing, baking bread, going on walks, and kind of reassessing my life. And then Oliver Wood said, why don't you come over? It was like a drug dealer saying the first one's free. He said, come on over, record a song. It won't cost you anything. See how you like it. We'll play on it. And so that's how it happened. And I stumbled into making this record, and now we have it. It's weird how things work out.
One of the things that I've noticed from what you've written, and clearly this is the first time we met, but I've followed you on Facebook in part because of the conversations I've had over the years with Mike Campbell from the Carlton, and this idea that you're a road warrior. You are that's your thing. You just love to get in front of people. That would have been taken away from you during the pandemic. How did you get that creative juice flowing in when you're kind of kept away from folks and the audience?
Well, what I did was I did a lot of Facebook streams where I would just play live and I'd have the camera on, but I'd be doing things like making oatmeal and making tea and just talking to people because I needed that human connection. And I sort of really liked that for a while because in my mind, I imagined there were hundreds of thousands of people watching because I'm kind of insane anyways, and I can make things up in my mind. And then when I actually did Zoom calls and I'd see people would be asleep or they wouldn't even be in the frame. I didn't even know if they were there. I preferred the imagination of the Facebook streams without having to see people. And so I did those for a while. And then I started playing shows around California because I found a promoter that said legally we were allowed to play to 20 people as long as they were socially distanced. So I said, I will fly out to San Francisco. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll drive out and I will play to 20 people, as many shows as you can book. So he was booking 3 shows a day and I would do 16 shows in 5 days. And then I'd come back and do it again about a few weeks later and play all around the Bay Area of San Francisco. So it allowed me to stay fresh.
How do you describe your music? Because some would say it's folk, but it's eclectic. I'm not asking you to define yourself, but to give us a sense for folks who perhaps aren't familiar with your new music.
I would say I'm kind of like the Grateful Dead for folk people, meaning every show's different. That's the only Grateful Dead comparison is I'm talking about whatever's going on in my life or in the world, or there's always stories to talk about and doing different songs. And I have so many songs I've written that every show has its own vibe. So that's why I've been able to play like multiple shows. For instance, at the Carlton, I'll do 3 nights and each show will be different and have its own feel and its own vibe. And I think it's allowed me, it's what I've always loved to do is riff on words and on songs. And I get sort of a high from it and I'm addicted to it. And I love going out on the road.
And since you brought that up, and I know that you've told a story about waking up in a train car, if I got it right, this road to sobriety and what it's meant to your life and how it's perhaps shaped where you are in your career right at this moment.
Well, I drank a lot in the early days. I was in a band called the Rugburns, and we drank a lot, and we were a party band and had a lot of fun. And then eventually I realized I had to slow down that if I wanted to keep up the pace I was going at. And I think you'll find most of the lifers that I call lifers, people like me that are still doing it, eventually have to calm down when it comes to all the drinking because you just won't make it. Your body will eventually give up. When you're younger, you can do it, as you know. You've probably been there as well, Sheldon, where you had some drinks and when you were younger, you just wake up and go work out or play basketball or whatever you're going to do. But as you get older, the hangovers become 2-day hangovers. And then I realized I could be way more efficient if I just didn't drink at all. I wouldn't make as many bad decisions. I still make bad decisions, don't get me wrong, but I don't make as many.
But they're sober.
Yeah.
And you've touched on something though, in that, what I found is the more truthful and honest I am when I'm talking with people and the more I connect with them in that way, the more they respond. And I'm going to assume, or perhaps maybe I should ask you, how have you found that honesty and openness when it comes to how it's been received from folks who are sitting in the audience, whether it's on Zoom or in the room?
I find it's pretty good, but never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So you got to be able to exaggerate things and make it interesting because I don't want to lose the audience. I always feel like there's a string between me and the audience, and I want to keep that string kind of tight. I don't want it to sag too much if I see somebody yawning or I'm losing the audience. So I'm making decisions almost like I'm maybe a quarterback like Tom Brady, stepping back, getting ready to pass, and I'm reading the defense, the audience, and I'm seeing where do I need to go with this, and my mind's working in 10 different directions.
Are you happier playing solo now?
I love playing solo because I can just make a left turn like that. I mean, being in a band is like having a nuclear weapon behind you with these songs, if I do have a band, because you make more noise and it's great and there's more power, but there's also power in doing stuff solo. And I'm able to take way more shows because I don't have to have band decisions. And so after I stopped playing in my band, the Rugburns, and stopped bringing a band out on the road, I was really able to kick it up a notch because there were no more decisions. I just made the decisions, and I didn't have to have community decisions. I was an autocracy, I guess. I wasn't a democracy anymore. I was a democracy within my own head, but I was the autocratic dictator telling me where I needed to go. That's why I'm at a long table here, you see. I'm like Putin, and so I'm far away from you because I'm afraid you're going to throw a plastic dart in my neck and kill me.
Or if you followed any of the conspiracies that he's addicted to steroids and he's worried because he's immunocompromised, and that's maybe what's going on. And the
Whoa,
kind of
I didn't know that. He's hooked on steroids.
Well, that's the theory, the rumor, and there's so many theories and rumors. I mean, you're living in the United States where here in Nova Scotia, we're only now just tipping into an area where there is no COVID precautions. There are no restrictions, but I'm sure you've played in places since that it feels like there never was a pandemic. So how do you kind of balance, traveling the world, seeing what's happening on the planet, and yet, living in the space that you inhabit?
Oh my gosh, you are so right, because where I live in the U.S., we have 50 states, as you know, and every state is like its own country. So if I'm in Portland, Oregon, for instance, everybody's masked up. Seattle, everybody's masked up. But then I recently played a festival in Florida, and that was where I got COVID. I didn't think you could get COVID in Florida. And when you get off the plane in Florida, they just spray you. They have these misters and they spray you with COVID. So they just make sure everybody has it. So I got the Omicron variant there, even though I was triple vaxxed with Moderna. I got Moderna because I'm in the mid-century modern architecture. So they wanted to give me Pfizer, but I held out for Moderna. And I got the 3 shots. And I still got the Omicron variant, but the Omicron variant is the dominant variant over Delta. So Omicron can kick Delta's butt. So now I could walk into a COVID ward, not have a mask on or anything, and lick people's toes, and I wouldn't get COVID as far as I'm concerned. I'm superhuman.
I want to ask, and I've asked this of other artists, how you balance the songwriting with the politics around you. Some are very overt. I mean, look to Neil Young, and then you look at others like Steve Miller. I've used this example before, who just says, I want people to shake their ass. I don't care what the message is. I don't care if it even makes sense. So on that scale, where does Steve Poltz fit?
Well, I was a political science major in university with a minor in Spanish, so I knew I wouldn't have a job, but at least I'd know why. And so I actually think I know more than anybody else about politics, even though I don't. And then once I realized I really don't, I just like reading and taking in all this material. I'm kind of a news junkie, and I find humor in everything, but I really want people to leave my shows feeling like there was a sense of community and they were entertained. I don't want to be up there and just yammer on and on. I feel like people get enough of that. And what do I really know? I want to make people laugh and make them feel good and have a sense of redemption at the end of my shows. And I have no problem telling them what I think, but I'm going to do it in a humorous way. And I will tell the audience reasons that I'm more left leaning, and a lot of the reasons have to do with fashion. I feel like people on the left have better fashion sense, and so I'll tell the audience that. But my accountant is totally on the right side, and he's one of my best friends, and we couldn't be more different politically, but I love him. And you always want your accountant to be more on the right side because he's going to look after your taxes. And so, I don't know, I just find humor in it all. We got to find a way to look. We've got to find a way to get along. We've got to find a way to meet face to face, to not be mean to each other online, and really find some sort of compromise, because that's what politics is. It's a compromise. Everybody's not going to get their way, and politics is the art of meeting somewhere in the middle and finding some sort of agreement that we're not all happy with what we get, but there's an area where we meet. And that's why I'd like to announce my candidacy for President of the United States 2024. Yes, we can.
Well, if I was a citizen, I'd vote for you in a heartbeat. You have a tremendous sense of humor, and I can absolutely see why people adore sitting in a room with you while you play. And I did notice that you've launched, at least on the website here, the tour that's coming up, and you're playing in Florida, you're playing in South Carolina. I'm looking, scrolling. Oh, there's Canada, Owen Sound. So what's that look like? When are you coming back to Nova Scotia?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I think, is that in April? I'm doing it
is April.
8 shows in Ontario, and I'm playing one of my favorite clubs in Toronto where I'll do 2 nights, and it's a tiny club called the Dakota. And I'm telling you, Sheldon, between the Dakota and the Carlton in Halifax, those are 2 of my favorite places ever, and they only fit 130 people. But there's something about the vibe. Like, people are drinking. Like, just because I don't drink doesn't mean you should be punished. Why should you be punished because I was an idiot? I want you to drink. And so people go there, they have fun. They're leaving the show, they're singing along weird lyrics that I'm making up in the moment, and they've made new friends. And that's what this is all about. I'm a person I'm a uniter, not a divider, and I want to bring people together through music and have them laugh and leave. And maybe when they walk out, they'll go, that guy's an idiot, but I like him. And hopefully, maybe they bought some merch, and it allows me to keep traveling on and doing what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm playing in Owen Sound, and I'm playing in Oakville, Ontario. I'm even playing in Peterborough, Ontario, a small town in this guy's barn. And I'll play wherever an audience wants to show up. And I will definitely get back to Cape Breton and to Halifax and to New Brunswick and all those areas on the East Coast and the Atlantic region too. I love going to Newfoundland. It's one of my favorite places. Is Newfoundland.
If you're not having a good time in Newfoundland, it's your own fault. Poltz,
I agree.
Poltz.com. You can find out more, keep track, and buy some stuff, and keep him on the road. And I just before we go, that song Pop is a very Canadian thing. It's soda in the States. So tell me about writing your pop song, if you can.
Yeah. So that song is called Can of Pop. And I always love the term, hey, get me a can of pop, because my parents used to say that, because my mom and dad were from, as my mom's from Cape Breton and my dad was from Winnipeg, and then grew up in Ontario. And so they always said, hey, you want a can of pop? And so I always loved the way it sounded, can of pop. And you don't hear it as much down in, you didn't hear it in Southern California. They'd say a soda, like you were saying. So John O'Ricks from the Wood Brothers, I was done with the record, actually. And I said, hey, give me a beat. I just love to always write songs. I'll start writing a new song. And I wrote this song. And man, it's called Can of Pop.
1, 2, 1, 2. Honey, let me open up a can of pop. I'm rusty like an old horseshoe. I've been working on an engine in an old chop shop. I wanna feel the fizzy rhythm with you. Had a chance to meet my love in Appaloosas, but I ended up drunk in Albuquerque. Tried to fill her head with a bunch of lame excuses. I think she knows I wanna do the herky-jerky. Honey, let me open up a can of pop. I'm rusty like an old horseshoe. I've been working on an engine in an old chop shop. I wanna feel the busy rhythm with you. So I asked to try to meet me at a Natchitoches, but a monster chased me down in Chacalaco. Then I jumped and sprained my ankle on a catfish. Now she's left me for some drummer she calls Paco. the chateau, left my chapeau down in Tupelo. I lost my left eye from a crossbow, and my wallet way up in Gatineau. So after saying what the heck, I ended up at Quebec. I passed out in the rain and ended up in a train from Montana to Savannah. Woke up in Louisiana, shouted a Hosanna, and I slipped on a banana. Gave my girl a nod and said, glory be to God. Honey, let me open up a can of pop. I'm rusty like an old horseshoe. I've been working on an engine in an old chop shop. I wanna feel the fizzy rhythm with you. So I finally talked her into gonna kick a poo. At the motel we did a little research. The father found out and his face turned blue. Now we're getting married over at the Catholic Church. Honey, let me open up a can of pop. I'm rusty like an old horseshoe. I've been working on an engine in an old chop shop. I wanna feel the fizzy rhythm with you. I wanna feel the fizzy rhythm with you. I wanna feel the fizzy rhythm with you.
Awesome. Steve Poltz, all the best, and that's a great way for us to wrap this up. It's a pleasure to meet you this way, sir.
Great talking to you. I love this conversation. Thank you so much.